Welcome in, everybody, to Fantasy Pros. This is the Fantasy Football Podcast. It is me, Joey P, Joe Pisapia. That, of course, is Kyle Yates. And today, it's mock draft season. We've done a lot of mocks in the past. Most of them have all been of the dynasty variety, but now we're starting to get closer to July 4th. We're starting to get closer to that time where camps are going to be in full swing and mock draft season is upon us. And so today, we are going to have a fantastic mock draft episode, of course, using our draft software, which, of course, is the best, but, you know, we're a little bit, we're biased. We're biased. So if you want to participate as well, go to FantasyPros.com and, of course, check out the draft simulator. Again, that's FantasyPros.com/simulator. We'll be using the multi-user draft, which is coming soon, but don't worry. For now, you could still get on your mock draft for free and basically get in there yourself and start to play around with all the ADPs and figure things out, where you like certain players and what the draft wizard, of course, grades you in the end. And I'm just very happy that Yates is here today at all. He had a very tough Father's Day. He was sick, which is the worst because, Yates, Father's Day is the one day a year that you could probably get away with sitting on your butt and doing nothing. And yesterday you sat on your butt, you did nothing, but you didn't feel good. That's terrible. That's like the waste of a day, Yates.
It did feel like a waste of a day, where I got to sit down and watch a full basketball game from start to finish, which Joe and I were talking before we started recording. I've not done in probably 2 to 3 years, just because, well, having a toddler doesn't really afford you the ability to be able to do that. So, I got to be able to sit down and watch a full basketball game. It was great, but yet at the same time, I did not feel well. So it kind of feels like a wasted opportunity there.
Well, we've hyped him up all full of cold medicine, and we got him here because we got a great guest to do this mock with us today. And, of course, you know him from CBS Sports, CBS Fantasy, CBS HQ. He's Mr. CBS, but he's also one of the great fantasy football minds out there as well. It's the one, the only Jamey Eisenberg. And, Jamey, I hope you had a nice Father's Day as well, and you actually got to enjoy your day of being a dad. Did you have some fun there? Did everybody treat you like a king?
I was healthy, so that was a step in the right direction, I guess. It was a great day. Thank you. Happy Father's Day to you guys and to everybody listening. It was a really nice day, and thanks for having me on the show. I'm excited to be here.
Well, we're excited to have you, and once again, to let everybody know, this is going to be 6 bench spots, keeping it simple, full point PPR. And, of course, we're going to do the single quarterback this time. We will do Superflex. We'll do all those other ones. We wanted to kick things off here a little simple. We're going to take you through the reasoning for the picks, why we like certain things where, and, of course, we'll hold ourselves accountable at the end. But before we kick things off, it is very important that we have a big bowl of Magic Spoon first. Now, before I do any mock draft, I like to have a big bowl of Magic Spoon. And the reason why, it's got 0 grams of sugar, 13 to 14 grams of protein, 4 net grams of carbs, and only 140 calories. It's keto-free, gluten-free, grain-free, soy-free, low-carb, GMO-free. Basically, it's free, okay? And it's delicious, and it can be yours. You can build your own box. They've got all kinds of available flavors. You can custom bundle. You got cocoa, you got fruity, frosted, peanut butter, blueberry, and cinnamon. Yates likes to put the cinnamon and blueberry together. I don't know. I don't know why he does these things, but that's him. That's what he does. You can do whatever you want to do when it comes to Magic Spoon. So go to magicspoon.com/fantasypros and grab a custom bundle of cereal and try it today. And be sure to use our promo code FantasyPros at checkout to save $5 off your order. And Magic Spoon is so confident in their product, it's backed 100% happiness, which, even if you're having, I guess, the cinnamon and blueberry together, which is weird, that makes Yates happy 100%. So, again, magicspoon.com/fantasypros. Get your cereal on today. That being said, we have our teams ready to go. Yates is the sick one. Mine is Joe Beat Yates in feud. And Jamey's just going to go with his name today because he's the guest. And he doesn't like to partake in, he's above the fray when it comes to these petty things that we do here on the program. But, gentlemen, are you ready to start your draft engines?
Yeah, next time you have me back on, I'll have a better name.
Well, in all fairness, Jamey, it took me a couple times to figure out, even in the mock, that I could make my own name up there. So it's okay. You get a pass first time here with you and me together doing this. So we're just excited to have you on the program. So it'll kick things off here. Team 2 is me. So there you go. We've got me in the 2 spot here. Let's see if I can find the sick one. Is it 7? Oh, and look at this. This is perfect. Separated all the way. Jamey Eisenberg is at the turn. Pretty good spot here. We're going to kick things off in 1 second here. So you got somebody at the top, somebody in the middle, and somebody at the bottom to take you through things. Obviously, Christian McCaffrey goes 1, so it's up to me. Dalvin Cook and Derrick Henry. I always go back and forth on this. Everybody knows I love Derrick Henry, and I'm going to go ahead here and go ahead with a little Dalvin Cook. Do something a little different today and kick things off there, which is going to now put Yates on the clock next when it comes to him at the 7 spot. So Yates, big running backs kind of going here. Derrick Henry off the board, Saquon off the board, Taylor off the board. Now it's that question. Do you want to roll the dice here with Devontae Adams or take another running back?
All right, so for the purposes of this exercise, Aaron Rodgers is still in Green Bay. So at this point, I typically love to go running back here, but with all 6 picks before me are running back here with McCaffrey, Cook, Kamara, like all these top tier options are now off the board. When I look at the difference in my projections for where Devontae Adams is from an overall points perspective to the next wide receiver of Tyreek Hill, it's still night and day difference. So in this exercise, Aaron Rodgers still in Green Bay. I will take Devontae Adams here and go a little bit different here. We're going to see how this unfolds.
I'm still holding true. I don't think he goes anywhere. Nobody wants to finish up their career in playing for Vic Fangio last time I checked. I just don't think that's going to happen. We'll see as it goes here. Diggs, Chubb, Kelsey go off the board next. Jamey Eisenberg at the turn, the glorious turn, one of my favorite spots to draft in personally. So what do you want to do? The board, you got Tyreek Hill, Eckler, Ridley, a lot of big names still out there.
Yeah, obviously it nearly worked out with Kelsey falling to 12, which is I think would have been a steal if that would have been the case. But he probably went a little late, in my opinion, at 11 as well. So to see him go right in front of you is obviously a little bit of a punch in the gut, but a lot of good options here. Tyreek Hill, I think, is an easy pick with one of the selections, so I'll make that now just because, he, to me, is the safe wide receiver at the top. You guys alluded to it with Devontae Adams and his situation, but to start your draft with Tyreek Hill in a 3-receiver league, especially PPR, knowing what he's got the upside to do with Patrick Mahomes is fantastic. But I still want to get a running back, and I'm torn on the Packers situation because Aaron Jones, I think, is an easy pick, but I'm an Austin Eckler guy, and I like the upside of the offensive line being improved, what he does as a pass catcher, obviously, especially in this format. So in deciding between Eckler, Aaron Jones, Cam Akers, the 3 top guys on the board for me, I'm going to go with Austin Eckler and just hope that I don't regret passing on Aaron Jones if he continues to score all those touchdowns like he has, 25 over the last 2 seasons.
Now, this draft is going to sling back to Yates, but before it does, Jamey, I just want to follow up on that Travis Kelce point you made. So you would obviously be very, very comfortable taking Travis Kelce at the turn with one of those 2 picks, correct?
He's safe. He's awesome. As I think, we talk about on our podcast, great or late. Everybody has a phrase for the tight ends, and it starts with Travis Kelce. He's the great of the great. He is the difference maker at the position. And so while Waller's great, Kittle's fantastic, Kelce, you know what you're getting. And I don't think this is the year that he slows down. I think he's still going to be fantastic once again.
And in terms of relative position value, just to get a sense of how much better he was than other tight ends, Travis Kelce was nearly 70% better in terms of productivity last year than the fantasy league average tight end one. So it's partially how great Kelce is, partially indictment on the rest of the group at tight end, but certainly at a market advantage. We'll see if that leaderboard tightens up a little bit. Yates, you're on the clock. I know you've made your pick. So who is it for you? Because it feels like it might be a running back you've talked about quite a bit on this program.
Yeah, and it's Joe Mixon. And because of the workload and what he is going to get when he is on the field, we know that the offense has improved, right? They've made some investments here in the offensive line, which is a dramatic improvement to begin with, no matter who the players are, over what they had last year. And then also now adding Jamar Chase, Joe Mixon's going to have every opportunity to roam about the box. They're not going to be able to stack the box against him because you're trying to defend Jamar Chase, T. Higgins, Tyler Boyd. So all of this just goes together for me to say Joe Mixon, incredible value here at the 206.
And very frustrating. Go ahead. Yes.
No, I was going to tell you. So Kyle and I are in a dynasty league together, and I share his sentiment on Joe Mixon. But also, we've seen Mixon have some injury concerns, and Kyle was a little upset at me when I took Samaje Perine. With one of, it's rookie-only draft, obviously.
It was like a 4th round. I'm like, how the heck did I get sniped on Samaje Perine?
And of all people to be upset about, no less.
Yeah, seriously.
Well, I mean, running backs have gone fast and furious in this particular mock here. So I just went ahead and took Clyde Edwards-Helaire as my second one there, too, in the full point PPR. This is the format where I feel a little bit more comfortable with him. I like some of the words coming out, though, about J.K. Dobbins maybe getting a little bit more work as well in the passing game. After that, Keenan Allen and A.J. Brown went my worst nightmare because I really wanted one of those guys to get back to me. It did not, which kind of irritates the hell out of me, I'm not going to lie. Now it's whether or not I take Michael Thomas to rebound and get back to being dominant, or do I take Allen Robinson, who's always steady, And this is kind of the boom or bust situation. I like to try to win leagues, so I'm going to go ahead and try to win one with Michael Thomas and see if it works out and comes back around. I think he's got a lot of pride. But look, everything you guys are saying about Joe Mixon, certainly a very frustrating year for Mixon owners, but I think it was the Bengals protecting that investment that they made in him, because last year there was no reason to rush him back from injury. So as frustrating as it was for fantasy folks, I'm sure it was equally frustrating for Joe Mixon. That puts you on the board here, Yates, with the third round 7 pick.
Yeah, so the top suggestion is DeAndre Swift here, but I am not going to be going DeAndre Swift. I would love to know Jamey's thoughts here as soon as I make this pick on Swift and kind of his projection for this upcoming season, because I am a lot lower than the consensus on Swift and what he could be in this offense in Detroit. I'm going to go with my RB. I think I've got him at RB 15 right now. That's Chris Carson. You do have Rashad Penny here in this backfield, but this is still going to be a ton of work for a guy who just got the contract. They're going to be running him into the ground this season. This offense is going to be great once again. Chris Carson here at the 307 to stack with Joe Mixon, I feel like is a really smart move.
And Swift went all the way down at 311. Jamey, your thoughts on passing on Swift or him falling here because of that Lions offense, perhaps, and the concussion issues?
Yeah, I mean, and the looming Todd Gurley signing, which would add to Jamal Williams. I know it's not necessarily a Gurley thinking of who Todd Gurley is. It's just more another person coming in to take away work, because I don't think they're going to bring Todd Gurley in just to sit and do nothing. So that's a concern. I think the offense is a concern. The one thing I think that's going to be nice for him, and I'll make my selection in a second so the clock doesn't run out, but the nice thing for Swift is, his role in the passing game I think is going to be really important, and the fact that Anthony Lynn and Deuce Staley, the running backs coach there, and Lynn being the offensive coordinator, what those guys mean to that offense I think is going to be important for what DeAndre Swift does. But, touchdowns I think are going to be hard to come by. Jared Goff is an obvious downgrade at the quarterback spot. I do like the offensive line. I think Penny Sewell is going to be a nice addition to what they have there, but that's not going to be a team that scores a lot of points. So I certainly understand the polarizing views on DeAndre Swift. I would have taken Swift over Carson, but I can certainly see Carson being, as always, undervalued for what he does and what he brings.
Yeah, and I'll tell you what, I'm a big Carson fan as well. In fact, the way running backs have flown off this particular simulation is pretty amazing, and probably a very likely scenario. I know you went Terry McLaurin here with your first of two, a pick that I'm a big fan of. Love McLaurin, love what he's been able to do. Very excited to see what he can do with Fitzpatrick. So who's the second one for you, and take me through your thoughts on both?
Yeah, Swift going. I really hate Team 11 right now, just because of taking Travis Kelce right before me, and then also taking DeAndre Swift. So I took McLaurin, and then I took another wide receiver. It was between Robert Woods and who I took, and Myles Gaskin. And I like the upside of what Myles Gaskin can be. Just in looking at the numbers, we always like to play the extrapolation game as fantasy analysts, and that always it works out probably the negative. But if you take Myles Gaskin's numbers over 16 games of the games that he was able to play last year, he would have finished with the only run, I think it was 800 and 600, 800 rushing yards, 600 receiving yards. Mm-hmm. The only other running back to do that was Alvin Kamara. And he would have projected over 16 games to be third in catches behind Kamara and J.D. McKissick. So, if he stays in that role, and we know that they, talked about bringing in Kerryon Johnson when he was cut loose from Detroit, mm-hmm. I think he's got a chance to be special. It's another situation where the backups last year were clearly backups. Savon Ahmed didn't play until Myles Gaskin missed time, and he missed time for COVID for 2 games and a knee injury for another. So as long as he's healthy, I think he's going to be the guy there.
All right, Yates, you are up on the clock next. You've made your selection already.
Yeah, I went with David Montgomery here, and because as you look ahead at the draft and you look at the upcoming rounds and some of the running backs that are available on the board, and then also some of the wide receivers, running back gets pretty gross here pretty quickly. You're starting to take some shots here on guys even into the 6th round. So I want to load up on the running back position here and at least feel kind of stable with that position. So I took David Montgomery here as my RB3. Am I projecting or expecting the top 12 finish like he had last year? Absolutely not. But I think that he provides a safe floor week in and week out in an offense that could take a big step forward if Justin Fields performs the way that we expect. So David Montgomery as my RB3.
All right, I'm going to go ahead and take Amari Cooper here. I was hoping CeeDee Lamb would make it to me first, but unfortunately he went before, and kind of annoying right there. After that, Deontay Johnson and Dak Prescott go, so that puts me back on the clock yet again. So far I've got Thomas, I've got Amari Cooper, got the 2 running backs, so kind of looking around here. Once again, I'm all about winning leagues, right? And yeah, I could wait a quarterback, but I think right now, after Dak Prescott goes, I don't think Kyler Murray's going to certainly make it back to me. And I'm going to go ahead and take a shot here with Kyler Murray. I feel pretty good about the core of this roster here. Got a real positive top 5 quarterback. I've got a possible top 5 wide receiver if Thomas can bounce back. I know it's a big question, but also a possible top 5 running back with Dalvin Cook. So I like where this is going so far. Feel good about it. Yates, that puts you on the clock after Thielen and Galladay and Kupp go off the board.
Yeah, so I'm looking here at the board. I've got some running backs of Myles Gaskin is still here on the board. Mike Davis, Travis Etienne. You know what? Looking at the wide receivers, I mean, Juju Smith-Schuster, we talked about him on a recent podcast, Joe, saying that I'm a lot lower on him than the consensus. Brandon Ayuk seems like an upside pick here. I don't know if I really want that as my wide receiver too. So I'm gonna take another running back here. I got Devontae Adams. I'm gonna load up on running back. And kind of hoard the position here. I'm going to go Myles Gaskin because of every reason that Jamey said. I think that he has an insane amount of potential this year. So, yeah, Myles Gaskin here.
I was looking real hard at him too, trying to make that decision. At the end, for me, it's about the guy who controls the fantasy points, and that was the tiebreaker. Kyler Murray controls all the points, whether he's rushing touchdowns, throwing touchdowns, doesn't matter. For the most part, it's all going through him. That's the only reason. But you're right, running back does fall off a cliff. Edmonds, Juju Smith-Schuster, the last 2 picks off the board. Back to Jamey for 2 picks here at the bottom turn, 5-6.
Yeah, one is going to be easy. It's Travis Etienne. You guys said it. The running backs are drying up. I was pretty happy to see that he fell to the back of the 5th round, especially in PPR. We know his role is kind of a little crazy. I got a chance to speak to James Robinson a couple weeks ago, and he was saying that he expects to still get a significant amount of carries. You would expect him to say that, but I think it's a little overblown what the role is for Etienne and maybe what the lack of a role is going to be for James Robinson. Now, I do think Robinson, if you look at like the NFC ADP, for example, is a little bit too high. He's going in the 5th round. But Travis Etienne, to get him in the 5th round, to me, is a little bit of a steal at this point, especially with the 3 receivers that I do have of Tyreek Hill, Terry McLaurin, and Robert Woods. But we got to play flex in this league, so I'm going to probably go back to the wide receiver position here. And one guy that I think is, you said it, Joe, a guy that could win a league for you is Courtland Sutton. First off, if the Broncos somehow manage to swing the trade for Aaron Rodgers, Courtland Sutton is not going to be available in the 6th round. In most leagues, he's probably going to be a 4th round pick. But even if it's Teddy Bridgewater or Drew Lock, depending on how that competition works out, I think Courtland Sutton showed you 2 years ago. Without, obviously, Jerry Jeudy, he could be a special talent. But I think he's still going to end up being in that top 20-ish range for wide receivers if things go well for him. This Broncos offense looks the way it has a chance to look. So I'm going to take him as my 4th wide receiver, play my flex spot, and hopefully all these receivers that I'm stockpiling here pay off.
Well, you know what, Yates, someday I want to be cool like Jamey, where I could just say stuff like, yeah, I was talking to James Robinson the other day.
Right.
Yeah, right. I was talking to Michael Thomas. He was like, yeah, Joe, I'm really disappointed about last year. I think I could do a lot better. I think it was just a down year, injuries, everything got me down. But very cool there, man. I just, that's why we like having you on the show, because you get inside information like that from Jamey. All right, that puts you on the clock here for 6:06, my friend. Where are you going?
Yeah, so now I'm going to start looking at wide receiver here, and Odell Beckham Jr. being here in the middle of the 6th round. It's a discount on his injuries and what he's been in the past, but let's not forget about how insanely talented OBJ is when he's on the field. So I've got Devontae Adams, who is like essentially 2 wide receivers in and of himself, especially in a full PPR format. So I'm going to swing for the fences here and take OBJ.
All right, speaking of swinging for fences, now it's about getting your guys, I feel like. Once we get past these first 5, 6, can you get your guys? And there's a guy in my queue that just went, who was one of my guys that I really wanted to get. So this is always the problem. But luckily there was one other one, and it's Javonte Williams, because running back does fall off a cliff, and I'm trying to look ahead in the season. I'm looking ahead at a Broncos backfield that, look, they run the ball a ton there, historically. And on top of which, I don't know how confident I am in Melvin Gordon. Starting the season, finishing the season for different reasons, obviously. And Melvin Gordon, even though he's been good when he's on the field, it's also a matter of, we forget sometimes that he didn't finish a lot of seasons. He had a lot of injuries, cost me a lot of playoff money. I remember, I'm scarred from this. Therefore, Javonte Williams, I'm hoping, will make this work. Now, the draft software here, the Wizard, says a slight reach, and that's okay, Draft Wizard. I'm okay slightly reaching for this, because slightly reaching for a running back with upside that you think in the second part of the year is really going to emerge is worth the reach. All right, comes back to me here. The board is mine, right after Will Fuller and Hawkinson go. So a couple ways I can go here. I've got my quarterback already. And yes, some people don't like going early quarterback still. there's a lot of talent on this board. Once again, we're talking about getting our guys, and Jerry Jeudy is one of my guys. Sutton's already off the board. I love some of the stats from Jeudy last year. I think it was a matter of maybe some better quarterback play. We get a better version of him that we are just scratching the surface of how good he can be. Tags has been on the show many times talking about Jerry Jeudy's deeper stats and some of those things that he likes so much in terms of projectability. So I want him on my roster. This is the one time I'm going to give Tags credit. One time. All right. Yates, you are up next for 707.
Oh, man. This is kind of a range that I really do not like. You look at guys like Noah Fant, Melvin Gordon. I mean, Deebo Samuel, he's exciting. But Brandon Cooks comes with question marks. I was looking at some of the quarterbacks. I was looking at Rodgers and Wilson, and they went the 2 picks before I did. So not in love with that. I'm going to take the shot here on Justin Herbert in the 7th round.
Right.
This is a little bit early for where I would take a quarterback typically. But with Justin Herbert here, we already saw what that feels like his floor last year. And so let's get him another year into the NFL, a full offseason, right? Let's talk about that, where he came in last year, was not preparing like he was the starter. So he's got this as the full starter. Let's see what he can do here with Keenan Allen, with Mike Williams, with Austin Eckler out of the backfield. I like this pick.
All right, after that, James Robinson, Jamie's best friend, goes at 9. At 10, Deebo Samuel, Brandon Cooks. Jamie, you are now up for 2 picks here at the 7-8 turn.
Yeah, and this is a miserable spot, to be honest with you. There's
How do you really feel about it, Jamie? Tell the truth.
This is just, it's not a good spot to be in when you see a lot of the players go off the board in front of you. And when you pick at the turn, this is some things you have to deal with. So either you're going to have to reach for somebody or you're going to have to, sort of settle for somebody. You never really want to settle for any players. But the running back group on the board is pretty miserable, in my opinion. There's one guy I think that's going a little bit, being a little underrated, and that's Raheem Mostert. So I'm going to take him here with my first of 2 selections. I like Trey Sermon. Obviously, we'll find out Jeff Wilson and his health. But if Mostert is still the guy, which in my opinion is going to be the guy at least to start the season, I think he's still going to be a very good fantasy running back as a 3rd option. You don't want to draft him as a starter per se. I don't have to start him on this team. But I do think that he is a little bit underrated based on what this 49ers offense projects to be. Now I'm in hell. So now I got to figure out what I'm going to do with the next pick here. So it's either try and get a quarterback that you like, and I'm a Jalen Hurts guy, so that's probably the way I'm going to go. But I'm going to explore the board a little bit first just to see, because receiver is not something that I need. I don't really have to reach for anybody at that spot here. I don't know if I want to take another running back here just for depth. So I'll take the position that I think has the most upside, or the player that has the most upside at that position. And Jalen Hurts, I think, could be a top 5 quarterback this season based on what he showed in the 3 full starts that he made, how he runs the ball, the addition of Devontae Smith. So I think Jalen Hurts has the chance to be, like I said, a top 5 quarterback this season.
A lot of good value there in these rounds for quarterbacks. So you just saw 2 of them go with our 2 guests here on the show today. And then we have Stafford, another quarterback, go, and Joe Burrow go. Now it is back to you. So looking pretty good that you took Herbert there, because you did get a quarterback run. So now we are back to you here, Yates, for 806.
Yeah, so I'm going to go with I think the wide receiver 1 on his offense, and that's Corey Davis here in New York. Now, Corey Davis as a bench option for me, I feel pretty good about. If I had to have him as like my wide receiver 2 or something like that, I might be a little bit more concerned here. But Corey Davis, where I can rotate him in, I can kind of play that matchup game there with my with some of these other guys that I'm going to add to my roster later on, because I've got the running back position squared away. I'm going to take Corey Davis here because I do think that he comes with some upside.
Very nice. Corey Davis off the board. So is Jarvis Landry right after that, who I was going to take. Boy, this draft wizard's tough. I'll tell you what. I mean, this is not its first year at Hogwarts. This is a full-blown wizard that has clearly graduated the entire program. All right, looking through, once again, I'm talking about guys who may or may not be ones on their teams. Maybe Michael Pittman Jr. becomes that guy. Mike Williams is a guy we've talked about on this show quite a bit as well. For me, it's between those 2 guys right now, and I think I'm going to go ahead with Michael Pittman Jr. because I do think that Carson Wentz is going to rebound. I like the talent here. Again, slight reach. I get it. I hear you. But you know what? I want to reach for my guys, and this is why we do all the work, because eventually you do have your guys that you think. Now, I do believe in getting some running back depth here, and I'm going to go take a shot on another young running back here. He is a rookie. I don't see a lot of competition here on this depth chart. So even though maybe the beginning month or 2 might be slow for him, once again, I do think once you turn past that bye week 6, that Michael Carter could be a very good running back for the Jets. So I'm going to go ahead and take him there. You got to support the young quarterback with a running game. So we'll see how much action he gets. That's my 4th running back off the board. That goes to you, Yates, for 907.
So the 2 guys that I had kind of queued up were Michael Pittman Jr. And then once you took him, I was like, okay, well, I can get Michael Carter here and add some running back.
No,
depth.
you can't.
So
You can't
thank
do
you,
it.
Joe.
You're welcome,
Thank
my
you
friend.
so much for that.
This is what we do.
Now I don't know what I'm gonna do.
This is a tough room today. Let me tell you. This is no cake draft. Let me tell you, this is tough.
All right, so again, looking at my roster, I've got the 4 running backs that I feel really good about. I've got Devontae Adams, OBJ, and then Corey Davis there at the wide receiver 3 spot. I talked about wanting to play the matchups, right? Wanting to rotate in at that wide receiver 3 spot. I'm going to go with Michael Gallup here because I think with how much Dallas is going to be throwing the ball yet again this season, I think we're going to see all 3 of these wide receivers be very, very fantasy relevant. And Gallup obviously comes with some huge upside. So if something does happen, God forbid, to Amari Cooper or CeeDee Lamb, then we could see Michael Gallup rise up to a top 12 option with his talent. So I will go Michael Gallup here in the 9th round.
All right. Gage and Damian Harris going, and Trey Sermon also going, who was in my queue. That's gone. I don't know if Team 11 screwed Jamey again for the 4th time. I'm not sure. But Jamey, you're up for the 9-10 turn.
So 2 things for fantasy managers to pay attention to. When you draft on a different site, I didn't realize Michael Carter was still available. I would have taken him where I took Raheem Mostert, so that was a great pick by you. So not knowing.
I'm the inside man. Don't give me too much credit. I work here. I do this all day, so don't give me too much credit.
Not searching the board. Damian Harris would have been somebody that I would have considered, but he's in the same range as Zach Moss, so I'm perfectly fine taking Zach Moss. You mentioned another young running back who I think still has some upside. Last year was a little frustrating for him, but I do like the opportunity for him in his 2nd season. Hopefully that ankle injury is fine. You've heard some different things about how the Buffalo offense is going to operate this year. Still keep the same thing without necessarily featuring the run game, or maybe help Josh Allen a little bit with the run game. But I'll take my chances with Zach Moss here as my 4th running back. Don't love him, don't hate him, but I think he's okay in the spot. And then, waiting on tight end, again, great or late. Noah Fant, if, again, the Broncos make that trade to get Aaron Rodgers, I think Noah Fant's upside can certainly finally be fulfilled. But in this spot, to get a tight end of his caliber in the 10th round, to start the 10th round, I'm thrilled with that pick.
There you go. So Zach Moss and Noah Fant there. I'm a big fan of the talent of Fant. I just hope the quarterback play finally gets him a little bit more involved, especially in the red zone. That's where you'd like to see it really happen. All right, the sick one, 10:06. You down with the sickness? Are you down with this pick? What do you got here, Yates?
Man, what happened to all the wide receivers?
It's tough. Yeah, let me tell you, man. Like I said, this has been extraordinarily tough simulation here, and of course, having you guys in the room doesn't help.
Well, this is the first mock draft that I've done for 2021. So, I'm still trying to figure out what this board looks like. So, I mean, here in this spot, it is a dead zone. And there are some guys that I do like later on, but I'm going to have to massively reach to be able to get them on my roster. So. Yeah. Kind of looking here at, tight end. There's some running backs here that I could add. I think I'm not going to sacrifice value, and I'm going to get Tariq Cohen here. I'm going to add to my running back depth because, especially in a full PPR format, and with Andy Dalton, being maybe a little bit hesitant to push the ball deep downfield, I think that Tariq Cohen could step in and see a ton of work again in the receiving game. So Tariq Cohen here as my RB5.
I am so sick of every season me taking Mike Williams and Mike Williams getting hurt. So the only remedy for that is for me to take him again and stay healthy. It's what it's suggesting. It's the guy I've been waiting for. I'm light at wide receiver. The upside's there. He's a monster in the red zone. He catches touchdowns. That's what I want. I like the 3 wide receivers I have, but I only have 3. So I've really got to get some depth here, actually. And I have Pittman as well. So I'd like a little bit more, and I'm going to take a shot here, actually, with Mike Williams. After that, Jamal Williams. So Williams back-to-back, followed by Rashad Bateman, which puts me back on the clock. Looking at my roster here, feel pretty good. Probably want to pick up another running back if I could. The problem is there are none. It's ugly. It's terrible. So I'm going to take another player that I like a lot. It is full point PPR. I'm going to go take Darnell Mooney, who I was really impressed with last year. Showed good fight for the football, good separation at times, fighting against some absolutely gross quarterback play with the Bears. So hopefully this year between Dalton, Fields, whatever combination we get, things get better there. Crowder and Hunter Henry go right before Yates is up for 11:07.
So, I mean, I talked about some of the guys that I liked later on. One of them was Henry Ruggs, and he got picked 2 picks after I went. So this is just terrible. I do not like this roster.
You got to go back to the salt mines, Yates. You got to start working again.
I thought I was going to have the ability to soak up some value here in the later rounds. But I'm going to go with T.Y. Hilton here. I don't think that he comes with tremendous upside. Maybe we see Carson Wentz and his arm strength link up with Hilton and his ability to stretch the field and be a threat downfield. But I don't think that he comes with a ton of upside, but I do think that he's going to provide me a safe floor week in and week out. They're going to need him in this offense. So Hilton here in the 11th round, I feel fine with.
All right, that'll put Jamey on the clock here. Tanyan, Tony Pollard, Nelson Aguilar, 3 picks going up to your 2 for the 11-12 turn.
Yeah, Pollard was somebody I was considering. I think there's obviously the league-winning upside, as you see, if something were to happen to Ezekiel Elliott. But there's 2 running backs I'm going to take here. Both, I think, come with the similar sort of outlook. Gus Edwards and Darrell Henderson. They're going to be used in their offenses, obviously, respectively. Edwards, I don't think, has the same upside as J.K. Dobbins, and obviously Henderson doesn't have the same upside as Cam Akers. But if something were to happen to either one of the lead running backs on their team, they're going to be, I think, have the chance to be, clear-cut starters, but you can still get some flex options out of both of them. So I'm going to take Edwards first, and then take Henderson, and just be, comfortable with the fact that I have some lottery tickets on my bench, and hopefully one of those 2 guys, if not both of them, hit.
Well, you just obliterated my cue. I appreciate that, Jamey. Well done. No more
I'll trade you both. I'll trade you both for Michael Carter if you want.
Well, maybe we'll talk about that. Probably not, but we'll see how this league unfolds. Yates, that puts you on the clock here for 12:06.
All right, so I still need a tight end. And now I'm looking at,
come on,
Mike Gesicki, Tyler Higbee, Irv Smith, Evan Ingram, Jonnu Smith.
Money where your mouth is, Yates. You've been talking about him every time.
Questioning whether or not I can wait. I don't think that I can. So I'm going to quote-unquote reach here a little bit, but it's Jonnu Smith. Anyone who knows me knows that it is Jonnu Smith. And this is because, what is the percentage chance that Jonnu Smith actually leads this entire Patriots team in targets?
75.
It is it's a very realistic possibility when you look at Nelson Aguilar, Kendrick Bourne, Jacoby Myers. Hunter Henry, I think he's going to play the second option there to Jonnu Smith. So I'm going to lean into Jonnu Smith yet again this year, and I think it's going to pay off.
I gotta say, Yates, I'm a little annoyed. I thought for sure it was going to be Tyler Higbee you were going to go for. You were going to let me have Jonnu Smith, but
I do like Higbee too. But
you've been talking about Higbee so much. I'm like, okay, this is perfect. He's gonna take Higbee. I'll take Jonnu Smith. It'll be exactly how I want it. No, he stabbed me right in the back there. I almost want to take Higbee now just for spite, but I don't think I'm going to do it. Instead, I'm going to look around the rest of the board, and once again, kind of tough here. I'm going to take some upside here with a running back that I think really suits the style of the NFL right now, and it's Kenneth Gainwell. Again, not 100% sold that Miles Sanders is the guy that this new regime necessarily likes or wants. So let's see how that plays out. If Gainwell is just not even a factor in the first 6 weeks, okay, fine. He drop and move on. But until proven otherwise, I think it's worth a shot. And once again, you never know with injuries too, how things kind of work out there. All right, now back to the tight end puzzle here and trying to figure out which way to go. I've got 30-something seconds here on the clock as I basically filibuster here trying to decide between Irv Smith, Cole Kmet, and Tyler Higbee. I don't know what it is. I can't wrap my mind around the Tyler Higbee, and I don't really care what the Vikings coach says about Irv Smith Jr. I get it. Yeah, he's not going to have an increased role, but why would you tell the whole world you're going to increase the role of somebody? Why would you tell everybody that? So I don't believe him. Don't believe coaches. So I'm going to take Irv Smith Jr. and see what happens there. But I'm mad. I wanted the wrong Smith there. I wanted Jonnu Smith, not Irv Smith. I have the lesser of 2 Smiths, in my opinion. All right, that's to you, Yates, for 13:07.
I will say, before Kyle talk, I spoke to Irv Smith.
Excellent. And how's he doing?
He's doing great.
Did he get my fruit basket?
He did. He's appreciative of you drafting him. This was months ago, but he knew you were going to take him when we did our draft in June. He's saying all the right things, and the loss of Kyle Rudolph, I think, is going to be big for him. So I like this pick a lot. For me, it's Fant and then Smith is how I have him ranked, and I think Smith has got the chance to be pretty special this season. Irv Smith.
Jamey, I like Smith too, and I like what I saw out of him last year. But I also think, why in God's name would you kind of stand up there with a big megaphone and say, yeah, this guy's going to be a huge part of our offense, and he's going to be the surprise wrinkle that nobody's prepared for? Why would you do that? Of course not. You're going to say, no, it's the same old thing and all this stuff. But I don't think you can deny the talent. And also, let's not forget, Adam Thielen's got a lot of mileage there. And we've seen guys like Wes Welker, guys like Julian Edelman, guys who work a ton over the middle, just kind of all of a sudden evaporate overnight sometimes. And that's my concern there with him. Yates, take me through your pick, and then we got Jamey back-to-back here.
Yeah, well, you wanted Jonnu Smith. You took Irv Smith. I went with Traquan Smith. Excellent. There we go. 13th and 14th round here. We're looking at some lottery picks, right? We're taking some shots on some guys that we're going to potentially drop week 1 and 2 if they do not hit right away. And so Traquan Smith, there is an opportunity here for him to step into that wide receiver 2 role in this offense. So Traquan Smith here, 13th round. I think that he can step up. If it is Jameis Winston as the starter, I'll take the shot here.
All right, Jamey, you are up next. You just took one of my favorite flyers in the late round, John Brown. I think the same things that you see, which is why not? If he can have a run like Aguilar did in that offense, could be a very productive player.
And the last time he was a number one receiver 2 years ago for Buffalo, obviously the quarterback's a little bit different, but he posted good numbers for Josh Allen and the Bills. So I think Henry Ruggs hopefully will take over the Aguilar role, but more likely it's going to be John Brown. And again, there's still that looming possibility of a Raiders-Packers trade of Aaron Rodgers going to Las Vegas. If that's something that they can pull off, then obviously John Brown's value goes a little bit higher. But it's a inconsistent, incomplete receiving core, and John Brown could be the best guy. And speaking of inconsistent, incomplete receiving cores, I'm going to take a chance on another rookie here in Amon-Ra St. Brown. The Lions need the Lions have a lack of targets and a lack of quality receivers, and he could come in and be the number one guy for Jared Goff. Again, you say that out loud, it probably sounds disgusting, but the number one receiver for Jared Goff could still put up some decent fantasy value when you're getting him in the 14th round.
I had a weird feeling that was going to be the guy you found, because I think after that Michael Carter was like, oh, he's going to start looking for guys that are lower down, and he's going to pick somebody late, and sure enough, there it was, Amon-Ra St. Brown, one of Yates' favorites, in case you didn't get that. That's the
spot missing on the wall, right, between Jonnu Smith and Odell Beckham behind you.
Yeah,
it's going to be Amon-Ra St. Brown.
Exactly.
There we go.
All right, last pick for you here, Yates.
I thought that for sure. I didn't even look at who these other players were because I thought for sure he was going to be here. Again, looking at taking some shots. I'm going to go Bryan Edwards. Jamey just drafted John Brown for what this wide receiver core kind of looks like. With Bryan Edwards, big believer in his talent, and think that there is an opportunity for him to carve out a role here. So he's got to stay healthy. That's the main thing. Am I going to get that result pretty quickly here, in week 1 or 2 before I drop him to pick up a hot waiver wire name? Maybe not, but we'll take the shot here.
I'm pissed because that's exactly the guy I was going to take. So at least all the great minds are thinking alike today. You got to love when
fighting
that happens.
for Raiders wide receivers. Looks like everybody.
There you go, right? But you know what? Cole Kmet just went. Trevor Lawrence just went. Those are the other guys that I had.
Hunter Renfro's still there, Joe.
No,
Hunter Renfro.
No. You know what? Because he is the little quarterback who could. I'm going to take another quarterback here at Cousins. I'm just going to go ahead and take the safe quarterback here just to back myself up, just in case. And now the grades are out. And once again, I want to remind everybody, make sure you subscribe to our YouTube channel at FantasyPros so you could watch this entire draft. And if you haven't already, obviously, you can go back and watch all of the faces and the pain and the struggles. And, of course, the grades, most importantly. The Draft Wizard gave me a B, 86 out of 100. Not bad. We'll go through all of our rosters here in just a moment. Yates, Jamey, you want to share your grades here? Yates, what'd you get?
I got a 77 out of 100. I'm going to be honest. I feel like that's kind of deserving. I am not a huge fan of this roster. Once we got past round 8 or 9, I was like, oh boy, wide receiver value here is not here like it typically is. So definitely going to have to adjust moving forward.
All right. Jamey, was the Draft Wizard kinder to you on this last day of school here? What was your final grade?
Yeah, I got a 92 out of 100, so the Draft Wizard was kind to me.
Clearly. There you go. Draft Wizard loves you, Jamey.
A- is what it was. I spoke to the Draft Wizard a few weeks ago, and the Draft Wizard told me that.
Well, just from the standings point of view, it has overall projected Team 3. Team 3 is always tough every year. You got to watch out for Team 3. But then Jamey Eisenberg 2, Team 1, Team 11, then me at 5. Yates, you're down there at 8. So it's not the worst, Yates. So, you could still make some good waiver wire claims. Still a lot there to go. Before we move on, I just want to take a moment to also recognize one of our sponsors here and one of our favorites. It's Pristine Auction. So if you're looking to get the stuff for your man cave or your lady cave, Pristine Auction is the place to do it. Everything there is authentic, which is so important when you're bidding on items regarding autographs and sports items and things of that nature. It's affordable. They've got auctions starting every day, sometimes ending that same night. It's quick, it's free to register, free to bid, and you only pay when you win. So what's better than that? And they've got some amazing stuff there. Again, it is not just football stuff. It's not just baseball. It's not just sports. They've got cool nerdy stuff that I love on the Marvel side of things. They've got amazing wrestling stuff. They've got artwork too, which is, maybe something else that Yates can have a nice little Bob Ross painting or something in between those two jerseys when he's done here. But if you want to get involved, sign up at Pristine Auction today. Use the code FantasyPros, that's all one word, FantasyPros, in that code at the top of the registration page, and you get $5 credit free just for signing up from us. Again, that code's FantasyPros. That's pristineauction.com, Pristine, auction.com. All right, Yates. So let's start with your roster here, since you've had time to kind of be miserable about it. What are your thoughts here as you kind of break it down? Where did it go wrong for you, I guess?
Yeah, so let me run through the roster. So it was Devontae Adams, Joe Mixon, Chris Carson, David Montgomery, Myles Gaskin, Odell Beckham Jr., Justin Herbert, Corey Davis, Michael Gallup, Tariq Cohen, T.Y. Hilton, Jonnu Smith, Traquan Smith, and then Bryan Edwards. I think for me, if I could go back, I think taking Justin Herbert there at the 7-7, I would have waited on quarterback a little bit more because there were some other guys that, I saw Matthew Stafford go off the board a couple rounds later. I was like, I probably would have liked to take that value there a little bit more than Herbert there at the 7-7, take another wide receiver at that spot. Maybe, at the 5-7, instead of Myles Gaskin, look at another wide receiver at that spot too. So, again, this is why we mock draft here in June, is to figure out what we like, what we didn't like about it, and then fix it by the time that we get to draft season.
It's also a tough place. The middle's always the worst for me because you really can't control anything. You're basically at the behest of the entire draft. Like, someone's there, they double up on something, then all of a sudden that run happens or you see a couple picks. It's very hard. Whereas if you're at the corners, to me, it's far easier to watch the board unfold, start to get a plan, and then make two picks. Being in the middle, you're kind of subject to everybody else, but you got four really good running backs. Right. Mixon, Carson, Montgomery, Gaskin. I mean, it's like starting pitchers in baseball. You can't have enough running backs in football. So I don't dislike this team at all, actually. And if Mixon stays healthy, this is very good. Jamey Eisenberg, you started with Tyreek Hill and Austin Eckler. Take us through your roster, recap it, and give us your thoughts here.
Yeah, my quarterback is Jalen Hurts. Running backs are Austin Eckler and Travis Etienne as the starters. Tyreek Hill, Terry McLaurin, Robert Woods as the starting wide receivers. Noah Fant is the tight end, and Cortland Sutton is the flex. Obviously, running back was a little iffy for me as the starting group, aside from Eckler, but Etienne as the second guy, but not having a lot of depth. And like you said, you want to have depth there. So I threw a lot of stuff at the wall at that position. So Raheem Mostert, Zach Moss, Gus Edwards, Darrell Henderson, that's the majority of my bench with John Brown and Amon-Ra St. Brown. So, those two receivers will kind of be guys that I toy with, but obviously I'm going to probably cycle through a few of those running backs depending on how things go for Travis Etienne or potentially my flex spot.
All right, and for me at the quarterback position, I've got Kyler Murray, who it's kind of like having a player and a half some days, which I like. I like the guys that can win you a week. That's what it's all about. Who's the impact guys? Dalvin Cook's one of those guys too. I love that combination of explosiveness. I feel like, if Dalvin Cook doesn't win me a week, maybe Kyler Murray could in this roster, and vice versa. So as always, I'm about building core roster strength. I'll figure out the depth later. That's what the waiver wire is also for. Clyde Edwards-Helaire is my second running back here. Again, PPR, so I like him a little bit more in this format. Michael Thomas, Amari Cooper, Jerry Jeudy are the wide receivers. I'll go to war with that. If Michael Thomas can rebound and be even 85% of Michael Thomas, this is going to be all right. This is pretty good. I like Irv Smith, not as much as I like Jonnu Smith, but it's okay, whatever. I'll live with it. I'll deal with it. At the flex spot, I've got Javonte Williams, but I've also got some bodies there as well. Michael Pittman Jr., Michael Carter, Mike Williams, Darnell Mooney, Kenneth Gainwell, and the extra quarterback, Kirk Cousins. So this is a roster that I always try to do this. I like to, maybe for fun, you go through, you try different things. But for me, I don't know about you, Jamey, I always try to mock draft like this is a team that I want to put out there on the field, because I think that's the only way we ever help our listeners and the watchers of what we do.
Of course, yeah. I mean, I think you approach it, I think both you guys said it best. Kyle said, as we're doing these drafts in June, you kind of try some things, see what works. But also you want to be representative, I think, of what you would do in August, So this is a team, I agree with you. I love the core of your team, and I think, both you guys did a great job. And I hope my team's representative of something I would do as well. I think when you, just to touch on something you said about, Kyle picking the middle. I think in the middle early of drafts this year is going to be good, because you kind of get the end of the running back run and still get a great player, and you obviously get a good player in the second round. But as the draft starts to unfold, in the middle is where it gets a little frustrating. Whereas picking at the end, for me, for example, it's a little frustrating at the top, because you're missing out on all those elite players and not necessarily settling for Tyreek Hill or Austin Eckler, but you're almost having to sort of wait it out. But then as the draft sort of unfolds, you can sort of dictate how things go. Like, so for me, for example, I knew that the running back position wasn't what I loved at that point. So I'm going to take some of that elite talent at wide receiver, and that's probably when my grade is pushed up a little higher, because I have those three guys that I could trot out of Terry McLaurin, Robert Woods, and obviously Tyreek Hill. So, I think you want to, kind of to be representative of who you are as a drafter, to show it to your audience. For you guys, for us at CBS, same thing. What you're going to do when the draft is real.
There's a fantastic point you make too about the beginning of the you were picking from the middle. And you know, it's good in the middle because in the early on you get some guys who might fall, maybe somebody like, oh, I can't believe that guy made it to me and then made it back to me. But after that, it can get frustrating, and that's why I would just run away. If you get to pick your own spot, give me one of the ends. I'm happy there. I think it's easier to kind of either, you know, get that elite player or 2 super elite players at the bottom and then kind of work your way out of there. Before we let everybody go today, I want to remind everybody, go to fantasypros.com/simulator to get your mock draft on. Use that mock draft wizard that we have. I also want to thank our sponsors, Magic Spoon. You can head to magicspoon.com and, of course, use that code FantasyPros, as well as pristineauction.com as well. And don't forget, we've also got a fantastic giveaway thanks to our friends at Pristine Auction. Go to fantasypros.com/contest, and we're giving away a Stephon Diggs autographed jersey just for listening to the show. All you got to do is leave a review on Apple Podcasts or CastBox. You screenshot it, you go to fantasypros.com/contest, you upload it. Next thing you know, you are entered thanks to our friends at Pristine Auction. If you sign up today for Pristine Auction 2, you get $5 on us with the code FantasyPros. That's PRISTINE auction.com. Jamey Eisenberg, you can follow him on the Twitter machine at Jamey Eisenberg, of course, and check out all the amazing work him and the crew do at CBS. Jamey, what are you guys working on right now?
I was actually with Stephon Diggs when he signed the jersey, so.
God, I love a good running bit. You know, it is so underappreciated when you get a good running joke through a show. I want to thank you, my friend, for making that work here.
My pleasure.
God bless you.
We're just wrapping up our magazines for the summer, so you can check that out. We partner with Beckett Sports, but we're getting ready for, obviously, the start of the season, so check out our podcast, wherever podcasts are available, and starting in August, our show is live every day at noon on CBS Sports HQ, and if you like a different, sports viewing opportunity, CBS Sports HQ is a great way, if you cut the cord, to go check it out and still enjoy your great sports coverage.
Very cool. Yates, I assume you're attributing the draft grade today to all the cold medicine, right?
Yeah, it's the cold medicine, 100%.
Okay.
I will, and I'll be better next time that I'm not hopped up on Dayquil.
Just know you did better than Tags. That's all you got to worry about.
There we go.
Oh, on that note, we couldn't leave in a better spot than that. You see, your friends, remember, your friends always make fun of you to your face, and no better place to make fun of you to your face than for thousands of people on a show like this. All right, that'll do it for us, but the story of the game goes on. For Jamey Eisenberg and Kyle Yates, I'm Joe Pisapia. We'll see you next time, kids.
Thanks for tuning in to the Fantasy Pros YouTube channel. Don't forget to check out our featured videos. And while you're at it, make sure to follow us on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter at Fantasy Pros, so you can get the latest news and updates to give you the edge you need in your fantasy league.